Hi, we're gonna do a demo with leaves today. If you are just beginning this video and you want to run outside to grab some leaves, maybe from a plant that you don't mind taking a clipping from, or just something from your garden, that would be great. And if you don't have leaves or don't want to use a leaf, just a paper template will work fine. If it's Valentine's Day, you could use a heart. If you want to just use a leaf, I just cut out this piece of paper. Okay, so today we are gonna need some kind of bowl. This is made by an artist from Ithaca, New York, Colleen McCall. So a handmade bowl, as long as it's pretty low and shallow, will work well. You know, a store-bought bowl will work fine as well. Again, just low and shallow. And if you don't have a bowl like this, the absolute best thing to use is just a paper bowl, because then you can skip this step. So I'm gonna use the saran wrap to place inside the bowls that I'm gonna make a little dish from. So if you don't, if all you have is a paper bowl, which is probably the best thing, then you don't need to do this step. I'm just gonna do this to stop the clay from sticking, and I'm just gonna sort of push it down into there and then really wrap it around on the outside. We're just gonna use the inside, and basically we're gonna be making what they call a drape mold. We also will need something to cut with, a pin tool, a toothpick, even a chopstick will work fine. And then I just took some leaves from my garden, and if you don't have like leaves because it's not springtime, I took a pachysandra also. This would probably work fine. You could use some spruce, or if you don't have any of that, you can just use some paper. Some cut templates will work. Okay, so I'm just going to use maybe about 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds of porcelain. I'm sure you can get away with less than that, especially for a smaller bowl. And basically what you're going to do is either roll with a rolling pin, or you can just pound out that slab. And just continue to pound it out to get it to be, you want it to be significantly bigger than the circumference of the bowl that Okay, so this should fit pretty easily into this bowl, significantly bigger. But if you wanted to make one for a bigger bowl, I would use more clay, and you can just roll out a slab. Okay, and so this should hopefully fit into there if you're going to make a bowl this size. But we're just going to work with the smaller one for now. So the next step is to think about positioning of the leaves, and which kind of leaves you want to use. You can use something that's a bunch of small leaves and sort of just trace around the outside of them. Or you could, think about how this leaf would lay in here. You could also sort of do double if you wanted to. This one seems like a pretty good size to lay in here, so I think I'm going to do this one. tells you use a paper template. My paper template's just about the same size as the leaf, and it would basically look the same. Now's the time if you want to put texture in. You can see the leaf has a lot of texture in there. So if you want to either impress the leaf into this, you could do that. It's going to be a very subtle texture then. Or if you want to just sort of draw your own texture in with a tool, you could do that as well. This is really subtle texture on this leaf right now. I'm just going to go back over it and use my chopstick to make some deeper textures here. Sort of tracing along the veins of this leaf. Then we're going to cut it out. Now's the time where I would smooth out all my edges. And then you can basically just decide how you want it to be placed in here. And you can do one of a few things. You can kind of either try to do a little tap down, so just sort of drop the bowl multiple times and it'll sort of sink into there. Or if you feel like that's not working enough for you, and you want it to be less subtle, you can just get a damp sponge. So if you want it to be a deeper bowl, you can just get a damp sponge and sort of push it in there. It may take away some of the texture that you applied, but you can always go back over that again if you need to. So now this is pretty deep in here and you can see the texture that I've created. And so now the choice is, what do you do with this little stem here? You can see it. So I could curl it over the bowl, but I don't want to curl it too much over. I could also sort of thin it out and maybe keep it, but it might get broken, and especially if you're firing it in a kiln. So what I'm going to do is recommend just sort of curling it back and onto the side, just so that it still feels like a stem of a leaf, but it doesn't have as much ability or potential to break. So I just kind of curled it around back onto itself. And then all you have to do is, you can either pop it out now or let it dry and then pop it out. If you pop it out now, just sort of gently sit it on the table, and if the clay's not too wet, it won't sag back down. The safer thing to do is probably just leave it in here. Clay shrinks as it dries, so it's going to shrink a little bit more, and tomorrow or a few hours from now you'll be able to pop it out. If you want to do some more cleanup, now's the time for that. And thanks for watching.